Hi, and welcome to day 4 of IT Security and Whiskey. I've got my crew, hopefully you can see that if I've got it in front of my face, my crew glass today, because guess what? I've got Lee from BCS with me to talk about it, and I will jump straight in and open up day 4. So, Lee, what are you drinking, just while I get this out and ready to go?
I'm not a whiskey guy, but I've got some Morgan Spice rum, just
Excellent.
watered down with a bit of lime.
I don't know if this is good or not, but I've got sheep dip today as
Sheep dip.
sheep dip. So I don't know if that says something about what today's going to go like or not. We will see. So you're going to be talking about perimeter security. I suppose over to you, and I'll ask some questions as we go.
Yeah, so the perimeter is your gateway to the internet. So the gateway from your inside network, your local area network, to the outside world, the internet. And everyone should have a gate. And this is where the UTMs come in, or a firewall. But in today's sort of world, firewalls have sort of expanded to become UTMs, which stands for Unified Threat Management Systems. Sort of a box. It's just an all-in-one box that does many things, that sits in between you and the outside world.
So Unified Threat Management (UTM). I've heard them called next generation firewalls as well.
Yep.
And that's just sort of have been called next generation firewalls for about 15, 20 years, I think. But I suppose the question for you is this a way of sort of differentiating between a box that is just a rule-based box and a box that is smarter and does intelligent things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So what sort of things are they that they do?
Things that they do is the big obvious one is, as you mentioned, firewall rules. They control the flow of data in and out of the network, either block it or allow it, or do it. It manipulates the traffic in, and you tell it what to do, and it does it for you. And that's the basic fundamentals of firewall, is to follow its rules, and they start at the top of the list and they go to the bottom. Next big thing, especially in today's day and age, is VPNs. Working from homes, you can sort of there's two types of VPN. Sorry, I'll get my words out. Full tunnel and half tunnel.
Okay. Yeah.
So half tunnel is where it only goes to the work network when it needs a resource from the work network. Yeah. And then your other internet traffic will go out across your network at home. Whereas a full tunnel all of your traffic goes to the firewall, and it's as if you were sat in the office and behind the office security measures that are put in place.
So with COVID and the whole huge expansion of working from home, we're both working from home today. Have you seen people switching from half tunnels to full tunnels, or full tunnels to half tunnels?
It's a bit of both. Where the sort of infrastructure allows, we've been going full tunnel.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't, we've been having to use half tunnels. But we have a sort of external DNS security as well that allows them to be protected at home at the same time. So it's not terrible, but we'd prefer full tunnel.
Yeah.
Sure. It just stops headaches.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've seen a similar sort of trend. To be honest with you, we've probably been turning on probably more full tunnels than moving people to half tunnels, just purely on the fact that for us, the perimeter security was doing a lot of our protection back in January, February time. We have a mobile solution as well now for laptops and desktops that are external. But a lot of our clients lost, some protection when they work from home. And I'm sure you've seen similar things, really, haven't you? So, does the UTMs that BCS put out there, I assume they do DNS protection as well?
No, it does web filtering, but not necessarily DNS protection.
Okay.
We use a different product for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does protect those mobile devices when they're out of the office.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And what are some of the other services that UTM can offer?
Most UTMs have antivirus built in, so it can't determine if something's a virus by the packets that are coming in from a firewall, but it can sort of, because it's a bit smarter, it can look at things and go, right, well, you've got an extension called exe, or you're a .zip file or something like that. I'm not going to allow you in, and it will just block it straight at the gate.
So do your firewalls do advanced threat protection as well? So where they actually take that file off and sandbox it up in a cloud service or anything like that?
Not from the UTM level, no.
Not you. Okay.
No.
Is that something that your clients can add if they wanted to?
Yeah, we have it available as part of the ATP side of things, which I think you've already spoken about. That sort of gets done at that level.
Okay.
Even before it hits us, even before it hits the firewall. So
no. So I mean, advanced threat protection is an interesting area, isn't it? Because it's a case of you don't want to stop too much because you still need your users to be able to work.
Convenience and security don't go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, indeed, and it's the classic one. I remember someone telling me that I can make your servers really secure. Let me just put it in a fireproof safe and turn a lock, basically, and that's really secure, but it's not usable, and it's getting that balance around that. But UTMs have been around for quite a while. I'm assuming that sort of balance, you've got that balance under control. I mean, I think we've got that balance under control. So I assume BCS.
Yeah, we've been doing it for many years as well as a managed service. Yes, yeah, we've learned things over the years, and we implement defaults as so to speak, that is not necessarily a default out the box, but it's default to BCS, and it's good from an engineering point of view. For when something goes wrong, everyone knows that everything where it should be and what those defaults are, and then specific tweaks per customer.
Yeah, I mean, that's something actually I suppose I've picked up on over the years with what we've been doing at Avagio, that actually what you get out of the box is pretty rubbish, and actually it's what you learn over the years, what works, the industry insight that you get, keeping on top of what's going on out there in terms of threats and various other bits and pieces. But a managed service allows you to deliver that all that extra security to clients, right?
Take that pain away from them.
Yeah.
Just leave it to us.
Yeah.
We got it.
Cool. Excellent.
So one of a couple of other features actually is two features. They sort of go hand in hand: IPS and IDS. So IPS is internet. Sorry, excuse me.
Have another drink, you know.
No.
That's the whole point of this, you know. Is
So, I know. I've actually forgotten. Intrusion prevention system and intrusion detection system. So it's better to prevent than have it in your system and detect. So IPS would be preferable, but you should have both. So detection is network level, and prevention is gateway level, perimeter level. And I think you've got something to sort of show for the IPS side of things.
Yeah. So let me just share my screen. Screen 2. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
So this is a report. You can actually see this is only run from the 1st of December, so it's only 4 days effectively, and you can see what's being scanned, when it's been scanned. So you can generally see working days. I would imagine that is. But then if we just scroll down here, you can see that we prevented actually quite a few. 37 in 4 days, 4 working days. That, you take that off over a month, and what's been scanned is quite big, really. So 37 detected, 37 prevented.
And they've been prevented from getting into your network.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the big things is we haven't talked about just basic routers and firewalls without the UTM features. But that's one of the big things actually is the IPS and IDS for me is stopping this stuff because I was looking for some reports for this earlier, and actually I could see brute force attacks going on or trying to go on. Back in the day, I mean, sure, BCS don't have this, but back in the day, you might have had some RDP ports open for terminal servers, and that was quite
many
common.
years ago. That was common.
Quite common. You'd suddenly see a brute force attack on an RDS server or a terminal server, as they're known back then as. And yeah, I mean, it was quite a scary time at points. I mean, there should be no one now with RDS and TS.
It's one of those forbidden ports, just like
Yeah.
S&B.
Yeah, and even 3390, right? You're changing the port number and translating it through on the firewall, which you can't do with these UTMs. Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
That's security by obscurity, which doesn't work.
Yeah. But actually, we did find that because I think we still had a couple of clients that wouldn't use VPNs, half tunnel, full tunnel VPNs to get to the terminal servers. We did find when we put the IPSs on, it did actually stop and detect it, so it does help. But that is, like you say, it's the
reducing that risk, the risk area.
Yeah, you're reducing the risk area, but actually not by much. So actually having an IPS service is really great. But if you're still doing silly things on your firewalls, it doesn't help really, does it?
I've often said if you allow the thing in,
yeah,
nothing's going to stop it if you allow it in, sort of thing. If you give it the option,
yeah.
Are you sure you want to come in? Yeah, no, that's fine. Are you sure? Yeah, no, that's fine. And then
yeah, no, indeed,
it all breaks loose, and
yeah,
but you've allowed it in, so nothing's going to stop it.
Brilliant.
Cool.
What else have you got for us, Lee?
Yeah, so we've got so UTMs, they do other things such as app blocking, so we can block applications in general, just like the antivirus can see those EXEs. We can actually use that also to block sort of applications from even talking to the internet. Say you don't want people on Zoom. You don't want people to use Zoom. You want everyone in the company to use Teams or Discord. You can actually block that at the firewall level.
So a big one for us on that one was when GDPR was pretty much being implemented. 18 months ago now? A bit longer than that.
A bit longer than
that. One of the things actually we did for a lot of our clients was block file sharing services that they weren't using.
Yep.
So Dropbox or OneDrive. If they Dropbox House would block OneDrive, for example, or Box. But actually, we started rolling that out as a fairly sort of standard thing in terms of a default, and then we see what breaks.
Yep.
Because it just again reduces that data leak, point of view. There's always ways around it, especially at the SME level. There's always ways around data leak. But actually, if you can just do something to just make it a little bit harder for them,
you've got to be seen as trying, haven't you?
Yeah. No, indeed.
So we a big common feature for UTMs is web filtering and HTTPS scanning. Web filtering has become a little bit harder due to HTTPS, but as the UTM sits on your boundary, you can actually install certificates from them and on the machines. So therefore, the UTM can actually see the traffic that's going in and out of it and where it's going to on the network, which therefore you can then start blocking certain things. And you can have, say, for instance, you wanted to block social media across the whole company, Facebook, just social media in general. You could, but the marketing department, or they actually need to access all the social media. You can actually target the web filtering to that specific group. So you would allow the people who work in the marketing department to access Facebook, but no one else can. And that's sort of, it's quite granular, and how far you can go down. It's actually quite granular. about what you can and can't block and who you need to block it for.
Yeah.
I think we have a position that's something where some people are at YouTube, some people aren't. It works really well.
Yeah,
And,
no, I mean, and you have, I'm sure you have different rules for lunchtime for some clients. You know, they want to allow gaming. I mean, actually, we do that in our office. So we
guest
have
networks.
guest networks. Yeah, we actually block gaming on our guest network, but we allow our guys when they're in the office to go watch YouTube gaming videos and and look on Twitch and what have you. That's sort of fairly common to allow it. In our environment anyway. I mean, what do you find the uptake with clients is when you talk about blocking certain categories? Do you have any clients that say no, we don't want to, or any end users that complain about it? Do you get to hear about any of that at all, or not?
We have had a couple of times go, why can't I access the gambling site on my work device?
Oh no, so we have a story on that one. We have a client who did exactly that, and I think it was one of the directors, and actually we had to allow it through in the end for him. But obviously that's a business critical thing, right? You got to be able to place your 2 o'clock bet on the horses, right? So
yep, yeah, we've had a couple of those before, and then sort of anything that comes up like that, we always go to the decision maker because they have to be made aware.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we've been approached by so and so, and they're complaining that why can't they access gamble.com? It turned out he really wanted to do it and got told no, but it was a work device, but I don't know. Obviously, it depends on their policies, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that gambling wasn't on the policy that they were allowed to do, so
yeah,
that wasn't authorized.
Excellent.
But
and in terms of where you see perimeter security sort of sitting in the whole landscape of cybersecurity and prevention and and what have you, where do you see perimeter security sitting?
So extremely high, and it's also a requirement of Cyber Essentials. Not to have something, well, it is to have something advanced because there's certain other things of Cyber Essentials that you need to comply with, and the UTM sort of deals with a lot of it.
Yeah.
They will get smarter.
Yeah.
As time goes on, and I think it's pretty obvious to say that you can do pretty much what you want with them within the boundaries of what they're going to offer.
Yeah.
But they are key to keeping businesses safe and the data and the staff. It's not just your data. You protecting staff as well, because clicking things is what staff seem to like to do. And if we can help stop that, there's just another layer in the toolbox.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great poster. There's a great poster that we have in a couple of our PowerPoint presentations, which is a boxing ring. If I could find it in 30 seconds, I would show it. But maybe I'll save it for next time we're talking. But you got a boxing ring, and you've got all the IT security on one side, and then you have Bob from accounts on the other side, right? And Bob's going to win because it just happens sometimes, right? You can put all this good stuff in, and we haven't talked about training yet, but that'd be one of the ones that we'll cover for the rest of the month. But yeah, people and technology, they fail, right, at times. They let things through, for very
to catch them.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing with cybersecurity. So, what would you say to a client that hasn't got a UTM but has just got a basic firewall? I mean, what are the risks with that?
Well, I believe, don't quote me 100%, but I'm fairly sure that the most compromises that I see are from people with basic firewalls.
Yeah, I know. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And my experience,
as you mentioned, you can put all the layers in place you want. Training is obviously a big part, which is for a different discussion. Sorry, I'm babbling now. What was the question?
It was, why? What would you say to someone who's just got a basic router device?
Yes, I can tell you that with a basic router device, I'm fairly confident that you probably haven't stopped it being externally accessible. I wonder when was the last time you checked your firewall rules?
Yeah.
Have you ever been compromised? Could it have been stopped by a UTM? Do you need someone just to take that stress away from you and just hand it over to professionals? That's what I would probably say.
So one of the things that I think about when I see a basic router or firewall is, when was the last time someone logged into it? And that's actually, for us, is one of the big points about having
Firmware updates.
Firmware updates
is a big key, because vulnerabilities happen. They do get found. They do get patched. And if no one's logging into them, either checking the firewall rules, or did someone make a temporary one that was actually quite bad, but because it was only temporary, and someone left it there, is actually doing bad things. And firewall updates are key as well.
I mean, we took on a new client over the summer, who just had a basic Draytech. I'll be honest with you, it was basic Draytech router, quite common in the
very common
small office, home office sort of space. We sell them. I'll be honest with you, we use Draytech modems for our UTMs for VDSL and what have you. But actually, we logged onto it. They had an IT company previously, and they're on the firmware version that Draytech had spent months, about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I think it was, advertising that actually there's a vulnerability in it and update the firmware to a new version. And it just hadn't been done. And that, to be honest with you, scares the bejesus out of me, because basically they just take over the routers, right? They take control.
Well, there's people out there all the time. But it's not even people, it's robots.
Yeah.
It's not even people doing it all the time.
Yeah.
All those IPS we were talking about, that's designed to stop these people. Robots and or botnets. Yes, it is scary, and it is asking for trouble, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, let's just sort of. Is there anything else you want to cover, or should we sort of bring it a bit to a close?
Bring it to a close. Yeah, it's all good.
I mean, for me, it is that the UTM is there for when we're not here. We have to sleep sometimes, right? My kids don't think so, but apparently, I do need to sleep sometimes.
I agree with you on that one. Elephants.
Yeah, you've got and if you have a basic router or firewall, you don't have those services. You don't have those extra layers of protection on top, do you?
I forgot one thing. Sorry, I just thought something else. Login, extensive login.
Yeah.
UTMs come with logs for days.
Yeah.
Who's doing what, and they're quite boring to look at, I'll be honest, but they're there when you need it, and it goes back to the whole device is there for when we're not, so we can review back at a later date.
So now you've said that, that's sort of sparked something. So back in the early 2010s, right, it was quite common that you'd start putting these bits and pieces on, and the attacks were fairly unsophisticated, right? So you could generally quite easily work out
where the IP address is coming from,
or something like that. But then they've got much more sophisticated now, and you've got cyber insurance. This is a big thing, which will I think is on my list to talk about at another point. Windows logs, various other things. But these guys, they exist to try and not get caught, right? And actually one of the things is, if they get inside your network, one of the things they're going to be trying to do is make sure that actually their route in isn't detected.
Cover their tracks. Yeah.
And with a basic router, you just don't have that, do you?
Nope.
And with the next generation firewall, UTM, whatever terminology you use it on, they do have that, and they do have that ability to be able to actually stop the next attack into you, but also into your neighbor or something like that. And actually, it's that whole piece, I think, is quite useful. These days.
You'll often find with the sort of smaller devices that upon reboot, the logs might just delete because they don't have enough space on them to hold the logs as well. Yeah. So I just wanted to cover that one.
I think that's good, and thank you very much for sort of coming along and drinking some rum.
No worries. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And I think I'm going to get you back next week, aren't I? So we'll confirm what that's on, and I'll make sure it goes on LinkedIn. And thank you very much, Lee.
Have a good evening.
You too.